coalitions with the small businesses, labor unions, and community organizations coming together to ensure that we tackle two biggest crises of our time: income inequality and climate change. It is no secret that one of the main sources of racial injustice and economic justice is the power that corporations have in our country and in our state. Corporations across the state, whether it's Amazon, Google, Apple, anybody on tech or e-commerce, have made billions out of the suffering of our communities. We saw that through this past year and continue to see that during this pandemic. Amazon by itself made $90 billion when small businesses were closing down, when communities were struggling. So this issue on tackling corporate power and holding them accountable, it is a critical issue for all of us. It is a racial justice issue. Today, we are gathering, launching our new coalition, the New Yorkers for a Fair Economy Coalition. Enough is enough. Our communities, small businesses, labor unions, workers across the state, consumers are coming together to shift the dynamics of power, to ensure that we have a voice and stop the extraction and abuse of these corporations. Today, we're going to hear, as a first step of the campaigns that we're going to be doing, the passage of the 21st Century Antitrust Act. This is a legislation that is going to be a model for the entire nation. New York set the standards. When we win, we all win. Is that right?
Yeah.
We have Teamsters today here. We have NYCC here today.
Yeah.
We have the Institute for Self-Reliance here today.
Yeah.
We have Make the Road here, yeah?
Yeah.
RWDSU.
Yeah.
Well, these groups and more this past session worked very closely with our champion in the Senate, Senator Gianaris, who actually helped and moved this legislation in the Senate. We are going to make history together this coming session. And for that, I'd like to introduce you to our champion, Senator Gianaris.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. It is great to be here with all of these working people and their representatives. Maritza shouted a lot of them out, but we missed the Teamsters and Communities for Change, who are also out here today. Thank you for being here. Listen, antitrust law may sound very academic, but it has a very real consequence on people's lives, on working people's lives, on consumers throughout this country, because too much power is now in the hands of too few corporations. Unlike at any other time in this country's history, we have a very small number of people wielding incredible power. And that power is not just economic power, it translates into political power. We're standing in front of an Amazon establishment. This is a company that thinks they can set policy in this country, not just do their business, not just abuse their workers, but actually tell governments how to set their policy. We had a very real experience with it in Long Island City, where they tried to tell New York that they wanted $3 billion in incentives and grants to come here. We stopped that from happening, and that was the right thing to do. And they sat there in Seattle and invested millions of dollars to try and beat city council people in the Seattle elections, because they didn't like the fact that those people were advocating for a little bit more from the wealthiest corporation on earth to provide homeless services. It is a dangerous time in this country and a dangerous time for our economy. And the way to deal with this is to put teeth into our antitrust laws. They have not been updated in over 100 years. The economy is very different today than it was back then. And we have to give the regulators the ability to tackle this and make sure we're standing up, not just for the people, but also for small and medium-sized businesses that have been squashed and suffocated by the biggest players. So you'll hear a lot that we need these giant companies to exist for innovation. The opposite is true. When you're not allowing small and medium-sized businesses to exist, when you're not allowing them to flourish, you're doing damage to the ability to innovate and to get good R&D going in this country. Make no mistake, the opposition to the efforts to reform our antitrust laws are simply from those who are benefiting from the status quo, are incredibly rich, don't pay their taxes, and want to get even richer. Now, I'm proud that the State Senate took the first step. We passed this legislation, the 21st Century Antitrust Act, that I'm so proud to have authored and sponsored. We're working hard now to get the Assembly to follow suit, but people all over the country have taken notice about what's happening here in New York, and we're going to set the tone for bringing justice to people. One important thing that this does, it doesn't just protect businesses from people who are abusing their dominance in the market, it also would protect workers. It would protect employees who are abused, because when the only option you have is to work for an Amazon in your town, you have no power to bargain for proper benefits and proper wages. And so we're tackling not only what's known as monopolies, but also monopsonies, which is in the workplace situation. This is an incredibly innovative proposal that we're advancing. When we get it done, the entire country will take notice and hopefully set the tone for change in all of America. And I want to thank everyone here for putting in the effort to get it done. 2022 is going to be a big year for this. We pledge to make it happen in the state. Thank you all very, very much.
When do we win it?
Now!
If we don't get it,
Shut it down!
Yeah. Thank you. Well, as Senator Gianaris has pointed out, this is a critical issue for all of us because this is an issue about justice. It is an issue about democracy, and it is an issue about freedom. And that's what we have to think about here today. I'd like to invite you to another champion in the Senate, the chair of the Labor Committee, Senator Jessica Ramos.
All right, good morning, everybody. I'm so excited to be out here with my Labor family and all of our community allies to make sure that we are holding the rich accountable, to make sure that we figure out how to tax the rich this year.
Yeah.
The economy has long been in disarray. We knew this before the pandemic. And if the pandemic served as any type of reflection, we know that history cannot repeat the way that it did back in the Gilded Age. We're living another one now. And it's incumbent on us to pass legislation that really tips the scale in favor of the workers. And that's why I'm here. I'm here to support Mike Gianaris' antitrust bill because we've created an economy where everyone is scrambling for crumbs. Jeff Bezos is laughing up in space while his workers are fighting to put food on the table. Elon Musk is trying to follow him out in space while we're fighting to make sure all workers get guaranteed housing. The fight is just beginning. We need our billionaires to pay up. We need the wealthiest among us, including corporations, to make sure they're paying their fair share in taxes so that we can take care of the workers, so we can provide child care for our workers, so that we can make sure that no one's going without basic necessities, and that we're ending the desperation for work. People are so desperate to work, they'll accept nearly any conditions, no matter how unsafe they are. And that's exactly what Amazon has long been taking advantage of. I have an Amazon warehouse in my district. I know what's going on in Woodside. They're giving jobs to the folks that live in homeless shelters in East Elmhurst, and they haven't been able to get out. So how is it that a company as big and profitable as Amazon has workers living in New York City homeless shelters?
Shame.
Shame on them! Shame on them! And this team right here, we're up for the challenge. We're going to fight until every single rich person in New York State is paying their fair share in taxes, and every working family is getting their deserved share. Thank you.
Pay your share! 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 Pay your share!
That is right. This is a powerful legislation that will make them pay their share and will make them ensure that all workers will be protected. For that, I'd like to introduce you to a union that has been working really closely on ensuring that workers across the state have been protected for years. The Retail Wholesale Department Union, Political Director, Eugene No.
Thank you. Hi everybody, I am Eugene. I'm the Political Director for the Retail Wholesale Department Store Union, the RWDSU. I'm standing here today standing in front of union leaders, community organizations, and elected officials, and this coalition is growing. This coalition is growing because Amazon is quickly on its path to becoming the most valuable company that the earth has ever seen. And at the same time, they are the company that's producing the highest rate of workplace illnesses, injuries, the highest turnover rate in the warehouse industry, and some of the most vile anti-union, union-busting techniques that we have ever seen.
Shame on them!
Shame on them. It's no secret and it's no accident that we're standing in front of the Amazon bookstore. As they continue to grow, as their monopoly and monopsony power increases across all industries, we stand here with Mike Gianaris and supporting his antitrust bill. Mike Gianaris was with us in the very beginning of the Amazon HQ2 fight, when we stood together and we said, no corporate welfare for Amazon. A company that's paying zero in taxes, why should they be entitled to get $3 billion of taxpayer money?
That's right.
Senator Gianaris was here with us from the beginning, and he's the reason that this bill has cleared the Senate. Now it's up to us and the coalition to pass this in the Assembly and get it signed by the governor. At this point, we have no choice but to attack Amazon where it hurts. They are a monopoly, and we are going to stop them. On behalf of workers everywhere, the 1.3 million workers that they employ across the world, we are here to stand for them and to make sure that they have dignified and safe work no matter where they work. Thank you.
Thank you, Eugene. We're gonna do that, and we're gonna do with workers, with their voices and the workers of the frontline voices first. Frontline workers have been facing a lot of issues through this pandemic and before that. We have seen how workers have been treated, and we need to hear from them. No policy can ever be passed without hearing what workers need. So for that, I'd like to introduce you to Anthony Castella, a DHL worker.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Anthony Castellano. I had to write mine down. So. I'm a driver at DHL, an alternate shop steward, and a member of Teamsters Local 295. I've worked in this industry since 1993. I have a good union job. It provides for me and my family. I don't have to worry about how we'll put food on the table or pay bills next week. I have a union. I don't have to worry about whether taking anyone in my family to the hospital and coming out bankrupt because of the union and what it provides for me. But our security is in jeopardy. Amazon and other abusive corporations are growing by cheapening delivery jobs. They want to pay workers near minimum wage with few benefits to do the job that provides for my family. If New York does nothing, we will all be working for Amazon one day. But New York can do something and protect good jobs. The Teamsters are proud to be part of New Yorkers for a fair economy. We are standing with Senator Gianaris and Assemblymember Dinowitz to pass antitrust legislation to hold Amazon and other abusive corporations accountable. Thank you for standing with us to protect good jobs and working families. Thank you.
All right.
What do we want?
Justice!
When do we want it?
Now!
We don't get it?
Shut it down!
All right, we're going to keep that at it. You're going to hear us loud and clear. Anthony's right. We need to make sure that the two houses pass this legislation. So for today, I'd like to introduce you to Assembly members who are at the front line of this campaign, specifically supporting the bill, co-sponsoring the bill, and ensuring that the two houses are strong on this. First, I'd like to introduce you to Assemblywoman Gallagher. Woo!
be here with this incredible coalition today. And we are not just standing in front of Amazon, we're standing across from Starbucks, AT&T. We are surrounded by monopolistic corporations. We are in the epicenter of the new Gilded Age as we stand here, and I just gotta chill. Right now, the richest 1% of Americans own more than the rest of the entire middle class in this country. Profits are through the roof, and new billionaires are being minted every single year. Four corporations own almost the entire national media market. Sorry, guys. Three companies own more than 95% of consumer credit cards. 40% of independent banks in the New York City and New York State are gone. And our local newspapers and radio stations have been bought out by corporations. The rise of Walmart and Amazon have crushed our beloved neighborhood businesses, and New York City is nothing if we are not a neighborhood town. So, of course, if you want electricity or the internet, you have usually one choice, and it's usually not a very good one. More than 100 years ago, we got out of the first Gilded Age by passing federal antitrust legislation, investing in workers and in communities, and empowering the government to break up monopolies to create a fairer market for everyone. It's time for us to build on the lessons of our past and pass landmark legislation that would let our state, New York State, do the same thing. That's why I'm here to express my support of the 21st Century Anti-Monopoly Act. Whether it's big tech, big ag, Comcast, or Coors, monopolies in New York City, we're putting you on notice. Thank you.
Monopolies is no game.
Yeah. That is right. And let's not forget healthcare. We all need healthcare. In the meantime, healthcare has become a profit. So I'd like to introduce you to somebody who has been leading this fight in the Assembly, Assemblymember Guthrie.
Well, good morning. You know, in the 1890s, America enacted antitrust laws, and New York State has antitrust laws, but today you'd hardly know it because they're not being enforced. They've been weakened by court decisions. It's time we do something about strengthening our antitrust laws. It's a kitchen table issue that matters to working people. It matters to consumers. If you're concerned about healthcare, as we all should be, on the provider side, we see more and more accumulating of power among hospitals merging together and sucking resources out of communities that need those resources. And they do that in part because they feel they have to come together in order to fight insurance companies that are consolidating beyond belief. So you've got giant insurance companies fighting with giant hospitals, and patients and doctors and consumers are caught in the middle. This is a kitchen table issue that matters to every family, and that's the kind of issue we need to be taking to the voters of New York. And that's why antitrust, even though it may sound kind of highfalutin, is a basic issue important to every worker, every consumer, every family in New York. We've got to get this done. Thank you.
Can't trust them.
That's right. And I'm going to invite right now Leroy Johnson, who will actually share with us why it is that we cannot trust them and how they have extracted and destroyed many of our small businesses.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Write my stuff also, all right? My name is Leroy Johnson. I'm a member of NYCC, which is New York Communities for Change, and I'm the chair of the Flatbush chapter. I am here today because it's important that all of us that are present here understand the importance of the topic we are dealing with, New Yorkers for fair economy. In a fair economy, corporations should not be the one running any show. In a fair economy, Abusive corporations hold too much power over our communities, and this must stop. In a fair economy, abusive corporations refuse to pay their fair share of tax, and this also must stop. Abusive corporations refuse to give proper wages to their workers. Abusive corporations refuse to give workers the right to unionize. Abusive corporations have workers suffering under low pay and deplorable working conditions. Some of these corporations I am talking about are powerful companies like Amazon, Walmart, Facebook, Apple, Google, and many more. These disgraceful companies that I name have been forcing small businesses in our neighborhood, in our communities to close. Our mom and pop shops, grocery store, clothing business, etc. This is wrong. This is wrong.
Yes. This is wrong.
Are you with me?
Yes.
This is wrong.
This is wrong.
These abusive companies are making huge, big, enormous profit, while our small businesses are closing left, right, and center on every neighborhood in Flatbush, Brownsville, Gun Hill Road, Jamaica Avenue, Pitkin Avenue, downtown, uptown, everywhere. I have my own story. I was a business owner for 20 years in Flatbush. Now I'm closed because Amazon choose to even deliver their stuff right by my store every day. Everywhere you look, there's an Amazon van, even delivering in the front of the store. Ain't that right?
No.
Is that right?
No.
Small businesses are being abused by these greedy corporations who doesn't care about no one but their huge profit. Small business that partner with corporations has no control over their business and are forced at times to create unsafe working conditions or low starvation wages for their employees. If you did not know, let me say that Amazon is one of the biggest risk factors we have in our neighborhood by polluting the air, by allowing rent to skyrocket in our neighborhood, by separating our longtime neighbors, their public health risk, and more disastrous situation. But I stand here today to announce to these greedy corporations that your action will be stopped. There is a tremendous number of groups, organizations, unions, fighting warriors, and people power will not rest until we hold you accountable.
That's right.
The message must be loud and boisterous. Greedy corporations must be put unchecked. We are calling on the Assembly to stand with us by signing the antitrust law. Small business should not be sold out. This must stop. Big corporation must stop. Thank you very much.
We're gonna do this with a coalition as large as this, and we're gonna do this with analysis and with great people who have been talking about this issue for a really long time ago. I'd like to introduce you to a leader in the movement who has been working on this for a while now, who has been talking about corporate power and dominance for a really long time, law professor Stewart.
All right, this is a pretty exciting beginning here. When the antitrust laws in this country were gutted in the 1970s and 1980s, that led to a 40-year epidemic of wage theft, worker abuse, and destruction of small businesses and communities. Because what we used to know in this country is monopoly is theft. Amazon doesn't want want a fair economy. They want to sit on top of the economy and tell workers they have to work in unsafe conditions.
That's right.
On the terms that Jeff Bezos dictates,
Yeah.
without fair pay, with a union-busting attitude, and we are saying no.
Hell
No. CVS doesn't want health care. They want to sit on top of the market, underpay their workers, and not provide the health care that communities need.
That's right.
And these companies are happy that they are able to take and steal the wealth from communities across this state. But the hardest hit communities are the black and brown communities whose small businesses have been destroyed, and the black and brown workers who are often on the forefront and who are being robbed by monopoly practices. But this today is an iron triangle of power. You've got labor.
Yeah.
Yeah! We're here!
That's right.
Si se puede.
You've got small businesses. And you've got civil rights and community leaders coming together. And this triangle will not break. So I am so proud to stand here today with this coalition, and I will be behind Mike Gianaris in his extraordinary bill that is essential that we are going to pass in New York and lead the country.
Solidarity!
What do we want?
Justice!
When do we want it?
Now!
What do we want?
Justice!
When do we want it?
Now!
If we don't get it,
Shut it down!
If we don't get it,
Shut it down!
If we don't get it,
Shut it down!
Amazon knows a little bit of that. Long Island City was a great example. We shut it down. That's what's going to happen. This coalition did it. Because we have the power of the people. They might have billions. We have the power of the people. And that's what we got in this coalition. Again, I want to bring back the assembly over here. It's important that the assembly moves this bill. Assembly member Denowitz is a co-sponsor of the bill. I mean, the sponsor of the bill, the lead sponsor of the bill. He was not able to join us here today for health reasons. But I know that many members of the assembly are with us here today. And I'd like to introduce you to Harvey Epstein, who is a leader in the assembly who has been talking about this for a long time. Yeah.
Okay, this is New York, right?
Oh yeah!
And we have to decide what kind of New York we want to live in.
That's right.
And we have large corporations and millionaires and billionaires trying to decide the future of our city and our state. And it's up to us to fight back. It's up to us to say what our priorities are. It's up to us to make choices about how we spend our dollars and how we tax the millionaires and billionaires that live in our city and state.
Yeah.
That's right.
These large corporations are getting away with murder.
That's right. Shit.
They push all government, the federal government, the state government, to their wishes, to bend to their reality. It is time for us to step back in the forefront of this fight and say, we won't allow it to happen anymore. We believe in human rights. We believe in labor rights. We believe in fair wages. We believe in insurance. And that's what we're trying to do here. We're launching this effort this year with the leadership of the Assembly and the Senate and union activists and community organizers and faith-based organizations, because we're not going to take it anymore. We're going to stand up for New Yorkers and fight back today and every day. Thank you.
There has been some talk about some businesses coming out against the bill. Big Book, they don't understand the bill. Some of this opposition that's coming out is misleading. We know what a small business wants, we know what a small business needs, and how much the state can actually help them. I'd like to introduce you to the Institute for Self-Reliance, an organization that has been working very closely with all of these small businesses across the country, because there is a federal law as well that's trying to get through. So let me introduce you to Kathy Miller.
Hi everyone. Wow, this is really exciting for us. My member of a coalition called Small Business Rising. This coalition has in it nearly 30 independent business organizations across the country representing 150,000 businesses, independent and small business owners. So we're really excited to be here today and are so grateful and thankful to Senator Gianaris, Assembly Member Stewart, and the other co-sponsors of this bill. And I just can't underscore enough that monopoly power is the single biggest threat to small businesses. And this bill does a lot to help them to shore up, to be able to compete in the market today. So I'd like to read a few statements from some of our members from New York. We do have some New York City members. As a New Yorker, I am so happy to be here to read their statements. So I'm going to start with Bill Stewart. He has an independent business in Long Island. It's an independent toy store, and he shared with us. And it's great to be in front of Amazon today because Amazon is the leading threat that he has experienced. He says, Amazon makes it nearly impossible for small business owners like myself to make a profit selling on their marketplace. They will stock a product you're selling when they see it as popular and profitable, and then undercut your price. Because Amazon controls so much of the online selling market share, we don't have a choice. There's nowhere else to go. Small business owners need this kind of legislation so our government has better tools to stand up to monopoly power. I'll read one more statement. I want to keep my remarks short here, but this is from Independent Business Association here in New York, in Westchester. This is from Bob Giordano. He's the founding member of the Westchester Independent Business Alliance. He shared with us, our small businesses do so much for our communities. But too often, the deck is stacked in favor of dominant corporations like Amazon, big box stores, and national regional chains. The Westchester Independent Business Alliance supports the 21st Century Antitrust Act. We need this legislation to give small and independent businesses a fair shot at competing. So we are so thrilled about this coalition and looking forward to the fight. Woo!
I mentioned earlier that this bill in New York State is being looked at as a model for the nation. As we speak today, anti-monopoly and antitrust laws are discussed at the federal level, and many leaders of this coalition are also involved in this work. We are part of a national group called the Athena Coalition that is also looking at these specific antitrust laws. So we're big. It's not only New York, we are across the country. So I'd like to introduce you now to Pat Garofalo from the American Economic Liberties Project.
Thank you so much, Maritza. I'm Pat Garofalo. I'm Director of State and Local Policy at the American Economic Liberties Project. New York has a long, proud history of being at the forefront of challenging corporate power and protecting workers from the tactics of dominant corporations. It's so great to see that attitude alive and well again here today. I talk to people all across the country every day, communities from coast to coast, who are looking for new, innovative ways to protect their workers, their local businesses, and their public resources from the abusive tactics and extraction of dominant corporations. And I can tell you for a fact, they are all watching this effort and this bill. And the federal government is watching this effort and this bill. New York has a massive opportunity to put in place a new, bold, and to be clear, long overdue and very necessary standard for challenging corporate power and putting workers back at the heart of antitrust law where they belong. 21st Century Antitrust Act passed into law and signed today. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Pat. One more chant before we wrap up. What do we want? Justice! When do we want it? Now! If we don't get it, shut it down! And we will. All right. Just to conclude this press conference, I'd like to just open up questions from the press, especially if there is questions from the yes, go ahead.
Two questions. One, I think, is for Senator Gianaris. What exactly does the bill do?
Oh God, that could take a while.
Well, try just to put it into language.
Yeah, I mean, it does allow. First of all, the antitrust laws that exist today have been around for over a century. They've been whittled down by court decisions. As Zephyr mentioned, in the 70s and 80s, they got chopped down even further. So this does two things. Number one, it brings New York antitrust law in line with federal rules in terms of penalties and such. But the real meat of it is it changes the standard by which we can prosecute antitrust actions. Right now, it's just this monopolistic standard that has become very ineffectual due to the fact that the existing standards have been whittled down.
You can shout, it's okay.
But the most impactful part of the bill does two things. One, it moves us to an abuse of dominance standard, which is in place in a lot of the rest of the world that has much more aggressive enforcement action. And it covers the employee circumstance. So this, what they call monopsonies, where if someone dominates the labor market, if Amazon, for example, is the dominant employer in a particular location, then the workers would have a cause of action, and the regulators would have a cause of action for them abusing their workers and being unfair to their workers. So it would make it easier for regulators to go after abuse of dominance in the marketplace, and it would create an action for abuse of the workers and the employee.
And is this something that the Assembly would support? Where does the Speaker stand?
We passed it in the Senate. We have a number of Assembly members here, and I think part of this effort today is to kick off our campaign to get it through the Assembly in the next session.
And then in the greater context of the coalition, really just to try to get this piece of legislation passed, or are there other organizing efforts that are broader, potentially, for the new coalition?
Yeah, thank you for the question. Yes, this coalition is going to do more than the bill. There is two-pronged strategy here. As I said earlier, in order for us to move any kind of work, we have to hear from the people who are impacted by those issues. So this coalition is going to be working at the grassroots level in neighborhoods where we have seen the huge unaccountable expansion of Amazon in environmental justice neighborhoods. We're seeing it across the city and the state. So we're working closely with community organizations, with workers who at this point, we know they are not unionized, workers who have been exploited by Amazon and other corporations. So that is going to be one piece. Second piece, we're going to have not only one, but more legislations in the coming months that we're going to be releasing. We're going to be actually using our legislative power to ensure that government works for us as much as we work in the grassroots level. I hope that answers the question.
Can you talk a little bit more about the critics who say that the way that it's written is too broad, and also on the federal level what's happening?
So critics say that the way the bill is written is too broad? Oh, okay. Well, I think they're wrong.
That's good enough. Look, if you think the laws are working just fine and you're happy with the way things are, then you're going to oppose this bill. The laws were criticized for being broad 100 years ago when they were written, and it took some time for them to be interpreted and for court decisions to put some meat on the bones. We actually have specific provisions that allow the Attorney General of the state to issue guidelines, putting some specificity behind it. So it's not at all broad. People who complain that it's broad are just complaining that we're trying to do it at all.
About what's happening at a national level, federal level?
Where are we? It's kind of hard to say day to day. There is some interest in this idea, but to be clear, if passed, this would be setting the standard for the country. It would go beyond what is currently federal, which is necessary. The last 30, 40 years have shown that what exists both at the federal level and at the state level is insufficient for the challenges of our power chain. So this would be setting the standard for the country.
Okay, any other questions? All right, we'll keep in touch with all of you. A lot more to come. To a chat, guys.
Yeah!